Hey everybody, Andre here at SeeWhy Learning with a general knowledge video. Now, in a prior video, I shared with everybody that I'm in the process of, unfortunately, renewing a mortgage at this difficult time in terms of interest rates. And in that video, I posed a very important question that you want to ask yourself before you lock in, let's say, for a 5-year term. I encourage you to check it out because it can potentially save you a lot of money. Now, that video sparked some conversation that I had with various people, and it surprised me to learn that a lot of people that actually have a mortgage today have never used or played around with a mortgage calculator. And a mortgage calculator can be such a useful tool when you're trying to make decisions. And I'm not talking about a calculator like this. It's basically a website where you're going to just plug in some variables. You're going to plug in the amount that you owe. You're going to plug in the interest rates, the payment frequency. So I'm going monthly, and the term, and the amortization, which is the total repayment period. So for example, if it's a 20-year amortization period, you're attempting to pay off the entire mortgage over 20 years. And what's so great about a calculator like this is once you've calculated your payment, you can then change a variable to see how that might impact things. For example, maybe I'm getting quoted 6%, but from another lender, I can get 5.75%. What's that going to do to the payment? And is it worth switching to another lender for that kind of discount? I can also play around with the amortization, increase it back up to the original amortization if that's what I need to do to get that payment down to a more reasonable figure. Or maybe I'm really aggressive and I want to go the other way. I want to shave years off the amortization, maybe go from 20 years down to 15 years, get this thing paid off 5 years sooner. Well, what's that going to cost me, in terms of the monthly payment? So I pulled up a calculator here. Now, this is one from the Government of Canada website. So it's reliable, it's credible, and it's actually one that's really easy to use. Now, there are more robust ones out there where you can do side-by-side comparisons. You can find those online for free. Just a word of caution, though, make sure it's a Canadian mortgage calculator. They do things a little bit different in the States, so you can't be using a US calculator. The numbers won't come out right. So let's just plug some variables into this calculator. Let's assume that I owe $500,000. The interest rate I'm being quoted, let's say, is 6% for a 5-year term. So I'm locking in for 5 years. I'm selecting a monthly payment. And let's say a 20-year amortization. Perhaps I bought the property 5 years ago. I started with a 25-year amortization. It's 5 years later, I'm renewing. So I want to lower that amortization to 20 years. So I plug all that in and I hit the calculate button. And my payment, I'm going to give you approximate numbers, is approximately $3,560. Wow, okay. That's obviously higher than I'm paying now because interest rates are way higher. Well, let's change this interest rate. Perhaps another lender is willing to offer me 5.75%. So I'm saving 25 basis points, a quarter point. So let's change it to 5.75, still 500,000 owing, still a 20-year amortization, still a monthly payment. Let's hit the calculate button. That lowers my payment to $3,491, which is roughly $70 less. Okay, so I'm looking at $3,491 in that scenario. Now, let's say I'm looking at that number and I'm like, geez, that's just way too much for my budget right now. I want to get that payment down. I mean, this isn't ideal, but what if I ask the lender, can we bump that amortization back up to 25 years? Let's do that and see what that's going to do to the payment. Well, that brings the payment down to $3,125 principal and interest. So, how much am I saving there? Originally, at 6% in a 20-year AM, I was at $35.60. But if I get a little bit better rates and I increase the amortization and get that, back up to 25 years, I know it's not ideal. It's roughly $435 in total that I'm saving by making those decisions. Now, let's say I don't want to increase the amortization. I want to get this thing paid. I could look at, well, geez, what if I lower the amortization to 15 years? Could you imagine that, being mortgage-free in 15 years? So let's change it to 15 years. So again, still $500,000 owing, 5.75%. Hopefully I can get that from a lender. 5-year term, monthly payments, 15-year amortization. I got that all plugged into the calculator. Let's hit the calculate button. Okay, the payment's going to go up to $4,133.95. So bigger payment, but man, I'll be done in 15 years, assuming, of course, when I renew, I continue to lower the amortization accordingly. So that's how you can use this type of calculator to help you make decisions and understand, what impact the interest rate or amortization might have on your payment. And there's also, a nice little summary button here. You can click a summary report, and it gives you all kinds of information. So again, $500,000, 5.75%. Let's get that back to the 20-year AM. My payment would be $3,491 approximately. I'm going to look at the summary report. And you get all kinds of useful information. Like over the 5-year term, gotta make sure I'm seeing this number right. It's a big number. Geez, over the 5 years, I'm gonna pay roughly $209,000, a little bit more than that in payments. Wow, $131,700 roughly is the interest, and only $77,749 is the principal. You can also look at what's known as an amortization schedule, and it provides you with that, where you can scroll down and you could look at your payment each month. Now, your payment stays the same, but as time goes on, you're going to see the principal portion of your payment goes up because the interest is going down because you owe less money. And you can kind of see how that will shake out over the 5-year term. So this is something that I really encourage you to do if you have a mortgage. It's so easy to do. Plug some variables into this calculator, play around with some of the variables, and you'll really get to understand how mortgages work, how amortization can impact things, obviously how interest can impact things, etc. I will put the link to this calculator in the description of this video, but again, there are more robust ones out there you can find. Just make sure if you do that, it's a Canadian mortgage calculator. Thanks, everybody. I hope you find this video helpful as you consider your renewal options when your mortgage comes due.